My name is Nick Middleton. I'm middle-aged, I live in Middle England and earn a middling salary, writing travel books and teaching geography at Oxford University. My life is extremely comfortable, or rather it was. It all changed when I started writing about the world's most extreme environments. The more I suffered in these godforsaken places,
the more I saw that it's the hostile landscapes that have shaped man's existence on Earth. One of the most hostile is the vast area that has kept East and West apart. Crossable only via the network of trading routes known as the Silk Road, this wilderness of mountains, plateaus and deserts is one of the least populated on Earth. But life is sustained there. Just what sort of life, my publisher felt was up to me to find out. This is the Badain-Giran Sand Sea, 49,000 square kilometers of the highest sand dunes in the world, and one of the bleakest but most beautiful parts of the Gobi Desert. I had an appointment to meet an eccentric Austrian at the edge of the Badain-Giran. He's the only European ever to have walked across this ocean of sand and had nearly died doing it. He was going to try and take me to one of the very few people who actually live there, a hardy soul called Lao Gao. It was January, and before I got to the dunes, I knew I'd need to acclimatize to life in a freezing winter desert, so I planned to cross the Gobi from north to south. I started my journey at Altai in Mongolia, on the Gobi's northern fringe. Altai is a bizarre mix of old and new, heavy industry next door to suburbs filled with the circular gares of recently settled ex-nomads. But for the jeeps, you could have been looking at an encampment of Genghis Khan's followers. My guide, Aldra, lost no time in getting me down to the market to stock up on the necessary cold weather gear.
You can try it.
Oh, so it's a double boot?
Yeah, double boot. Yeah.
Oh yes, that immediately feels much warmer.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, big stomach.
None of that.
The vast sheepskin dell is traditionally secured with a silk sash. Aldra considered a lucky length for a man to be 9 meters.
9 meters?
Yes, 9 meters.
I'm not that fat.
It was good to have the monster coat, but I couldn't help feeling that I wasn't going to be using it much on the first leg. 500 miles by road south to the Chinese border. However, I was wrong about that. Aldra, who had lived all his life in the Gobi, apart from a spell in the Mongolian parachute regiment, had a unique approach to Gobi transport.
Nick, now we are in the Mongolian Gobi. There is no people, there is no house. I'll teach you how to survive in Mongolian Gobi. We use Mongolian traditional way.
Aldra had obviously decided his mission wasn't to make my life easy.
This is it, into the Gobi, and it's extraordinarily cold. But believe it or not, I've been looking forward to this for some time, because I've been here in the summer and it's plus 30, 40 degrees C. And now it must be at least minus 20. And I'm actually having trouble speaking because my jaw is freezing up.
Even swathed head to toe in dead animals, after 4 hours on this freezing motorbike, I was looking forward to warming up at some wayside inn. But Aldra was having none of that.
We're gonna sleep outside tonight.
Sleep outside?
Yes.
What, in a tent?
No tent. We use Mongolian traditional way.
It's going to be extremely cold, isn't it?
It's about minus 25, maybe more.
Yeah, that's what I mean, extremely cold, we'll die.
Yeah.
Not only were there no tents, there was precious little else on Aldra's bike.
Is this it?
Yes.
Aldra said we needed to collect firewood and stones. And my concerns about an alfresco night in this temperature increased when I came across the frozen remains of a horse.
It's Gobi Desert. Difficult to survive.
Now we fill, huh?
Aldra's solution to the cold was a sort of primitive night storage heater.
Yes.
Okay.
The brushwood was ignited in a shallow depression, which we then filled with the stones. After 2 hours, with the wood all but burnt out, we covered the pile of baking hot stones with a mattress of luxurious Gobi sand. The Princess and the Pea came to mind.
What about my nose?
The temperature was slightly lower than my deep freeze at home, which I wouldn't dream of sleeping in.
How often have you done this?
Not often, yeah.
Not often. That wasn't what I wanted to hear. Well, I'd be very impressed if we're still alive tomorrow morning. These stones are just extraordinary. I have to keep turning over every 15 minutes because, I mean, this side of me is almost done now. Like my calves, they're actually burning. I'm having to keep them above the surface. They are amazingly effective, these stones. Oh, I've just got to turn that, it's too hot. Too hot.
The next morning we were back on the road for another dose of Mongolian osteopathy.
I'm freezing now, I can hardly speak. You're a madman, Aldra.
Yes.
I'd passed my first trial by cold thanks to Aldra's amazing hot stones, but I was a little nervous about what the Gobi had in store for me next. Mongolia is the size of Western Europe, but with only about 3 million people living here, it is, apart from the polar regions, the emptiest place on the planet. And this southern part of it, the Gobi Desert, is the emptiest part of all. On my way to meet up with Bruno Baumann on the other side of the Gobi, we travelled south all day without coming across anyone, until we got to the Biga Valley, where we met Shabata and his family.
Sign by nose. Nick, how do you do?
Living in pretty much the same way as the followers of Genghis Khan 800 years ago, minus the raping and pillaging, of course, Shabata's family are pastoral nomads. But they sit out the winter close to a supply of water, with their herds of camels, goats, and cows. When we arrived, Shabata was about to get the family's daily water.
I'm very lazy. All I have to do is turn a tap.
He seemed unimpressed by the joys of Western plumbing.
Yeah. Yeah. Just 2 buckets is not so heavy.
It seems like quite a big effort to me.
The River Bega dries up in summer, but though it flows all winter, getting at the water isn't easy.
How thick is the ice here?
About 1 meter.
A metre thick?
Okay.
Gosh.
For the 5 months of the year when the river's frozen, this isn't just for Shibata's family. Their animals would die if he didn't break the ice fall.
Yeah.
Water.
Look at that. Yes. It's like a geyser. It's filling up.
The water looked a bit muddy for humans, but it was nothing a little settling time wouldn't sort out, and the livestock certainly didn't care. Back in the camp, Shibata and his son-in-law kindly erected their guest ger for me and Aldra. In just 30 minutes.
Toast. I'm as warm as toast in my own little ger. It's brilliant. It's so cold out there. I just went to the loo and it's really bitterly, bitingly cold. But in here, it's just bliss.
Shibata was planning a feast in our honour, which was bad luck for this goat. But it did give Aldra the chance to teach me a classic Gobi recipe.
It's a full anatomy lesson.
Yes.
Stuffed goat is the perfect nomad dish, requiring almost no cooking equipment.
It is very good for countryside. If you haven't got any pot and cooking stuff.
Yes, you don't need pots and pans.
Yes.
No.
Take 1 free-range goat, remove all the insides, including the bones, taking care not to damage the skin.
Get it clean, eh?
Yes.
Having extracted all the insides, insert yet more of the traditional Gobi hot stones, then step back to avoid scalding yourself in the steam. Replace all the meat and add the vital flavour enhancer.
What was that going in there, Aldra? Oh, it's the onions.
The stones cook it on the inside, but the outsides get a different treatment.
Because we eat the skin, so...
Oh, we eat the skin as well.
Yes.
Next, we traded the freezing Gobi outdoors for the warm ger.
Shibata, I've brought you a special present from England, which is English snuff.
Forewarned about the Mongols' love of snuff, I'd brought along a supply of Oxford's finest.
Thank you. It's strong.
It's quite strong, is it?
Yeah, it's
Stronger than Mongolian snuff.
I'm not sure the snuff was all that popular, but at that moment the giant Mongolian kebab appeared. It was served, you've guessed it, hot stones first.
It is very effective for your when you're tiredness, yeah?
When you're tired?
Yeah.
Oh,
when you're
okay.
Yeah. You should try
Thank you.
this.
No, they're not too hot either, are they?
Yeah.
I mean, they're quite hot. You wouldn't want to hold them in one hand for very long.
Once Delgashot had fed the fire with the first piece of meat, Aldra and I were told to dig in.
Which are the best bits?
Skin, yeah?
Yeah, skin is good, isn't it? It's delicious. Lots of fat on this meat. Many people in my country don't like eating too much fat with their meat because they think it makes them ill.
Don't worry about it. It's nomad animal, so you can eat.
You need to eat the whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, fat is good for you in the cold, isn't it?
in hot winter.
Yeah. I must say I like fat.
With most of the Gobi ahead of me, it seemed only wise to fill up on the mouth-wateringly fatty, stone-cooked goat. And it was late when we collapsed into our ger.
I knew the Gobi was full of stones because that's effectively what the word means. It's a stony desert. But I hadn't quite realised how useful they could be. I mean, they were amazingly effective to sleep on once they'd been heated up. And then this evening to see the goat being stuffed with hot stones, I produced the most delicious meal I've had in a very long time. All without a saucepan even. Well, that's quite extraordinary. Stones are useful things.
Next morning, Delgashot lost no time in chiding me for a basic laundry error.
Perhaps I should put them inside, yeah. Right.
And my smalls weren't the only thing to be frozen. At minus 32 degrees Celsius, engine oil freezes.
Yes, engine is frozen. Last night, very cold.
Yeah, it was. Aren't you ever afraid that it might sort of explode or something?
No.
No?
Eventually, however, we said our goodbyes and set off. Our next stop, 6 hours later, was the Takintal Equine Research Centre, where Aldrar and I were to part company. At Takintal, Przewalski's horse, known to Mongolians as the Taki, the last wild relative of the domestic horse, is being reintroduced to the steppes. Genghis Khan's horse